Here's what's coming up on today's show.
But anytime your life is changing, basically very drastically, it can be a stress.
Yep.
So you're moving from one life to another totally if you're going into retirement from working all the time.
Welcome to the How Money Works podcast with Craig and Jennifer Moser of Maestro Wealth Advisors, serving you throughout the Triad of North Carolina for more than 30 years.
Well, let's talk about some financial stress. Did you guys know that psychologists have determined that retirement is the 10th most stressful event you can experience in life? Kind of interesting, number 10 on that list, right?
Yeah, I thought it would be sooner.
Well, I wonder what number one is.
I don't know. I have a few others. I don't know the order, but things like death of a spouse were on there, divorce, going to jail.
Jail would work for me.
Yeah, eating
we
a
don't
giant
have a whole lot
donut.
of clients that are dealing with that stress, thank goodness.
Yeah.
What, going to jail?
Going to jail.
yeah, eating a 2-pound donut, that might be on the list.
Yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for you.
But let's talk about ways to proactively deal with the stress, guys. Jen might have had one of them. I didn't see it on the list, but it could be like a holiday stress, right? So, but let's understand the significant lifestyle changes that come with retirement. We often talk, guys, about the X's and the O's, right? The actual dollars and cents. The act of actually retiring, though, is like kind of challenging for people, like that mental hurdle of I don't go to this place anymore and do stuff, right?
Jennifer says it all the time. You know, are you retiring from something or to something? Mm-hmm. And so we like the to something. But the things that change, think about it. Whether the clock goes up off or not, Craig's up at 5:30 every morning. It's just in there. How do I untrain that? I don't have a clue, to be honest with you, because I can leave the clocks off. We can put the
Go to bed earlier or later,
the
doesn't
curtains
matter.
down, to where it stays dark longer. Click like a switch. I go off at 5:30. So, you're no longer on the clock. Your routine is going to change. Your day is yours every single day, pretty much. You get to choose. Maybe your spouse chooses for you, but you get to choose what you're doing that day. So you're not on the clock. You don't have all the meetings. Like we have meetings. I'm either meeting with clients or I'm meeting with staff, and it's meetings. What?
It's just like the way you say that.
Well,
Just meetings.
There's a lot of meetings. And so, you have deadlines. I've got to have this plan done by Tuesday and blah, 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 blah.
But for the people listening, we like meetings. So just
But I mean, there's a lot to it if you're going to walk away from it.
Right.
Sure.
You're
right.
used to this pace.
Well, Craig, you're talking about identity, too. So many people get wrapped
Yes.
up in who they are as a work person that when they go to
Right.
retirement, it's like, who am I now? Right.
And there's a couple things too. So we deal with a lot with couples, right? So maybe one person's already retired. Maybe someone was the caregiver of the home and the kids or whatever. So there's also a stress level there. Oh my gosh, my spouse is retiring. Now I'm going to be with them 24/7, and that's
What's
a
this him
different
stuff?
Well, her. All right, be with her. I was trying to be, politically correct. It could be both ways. But, there's that stress, too, is how do I accommodate another person in my space that I'm not used to having and really dealing with that lifestyle change as well. So,
I see you and me even as we're getting into this stage of life. And Jennifer has her thing. If I step into that world, sometimes I lose a leg or a body part. I mean, it's like...
in a nice kind of way.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
It's surgically done.
I got you. Well,
But I mean, as we get back to this,
Yeah.
there's just a lot of things. Think about the drama at work. Have you ever just thought about, somebody's kid and the dog did this and yada, yada, yada? It's always something going on. And I come back to the original thing that I said. All these things, when you leave, you think you're going to get rid of. But anytime your life is changing, basically very drastically, it can be a stress.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So you're moving from one life to another totally if you're going into retirement from working all the time.
Yeah. Well, and it might be a good opportunity then to embrace the opportunity for new challenges. Your life is changing, so be open to some stuff.
I put some things down on this.
Okay.
You have it, so I'm a little more prepared.
Okay.
When you retire, you don't eliminate challenges from your life. You just start tackling new ones. This was something they put in there. And I'm like, wonder what they would be. Mm-hmm. So there's some educational things that I would really like to have in there. Like you already have a master's degree. I've got designations and things, but I kind of like to have a master's in financial planning. I just would like to have it. But I started thinking, what else would I do for challenges? So I've always wanted to do this, so don't everybody laugh at once, but I want to learn how to paint cars. I want to be able, I think that's an amazing thing. If you think about, you broke your car, it got fixed, and now they got to paint it. And I'm like, I would love to do that. I'd like to build myself a little shop and make my paint thing and see if I could do it. But, exercise. Now, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do. I've got a back issue I've got to work through. I'll tell you about that in some show. But I know I can do Tai Chi and things like that. I've done it before. I would love to have time to actually devote to doing that, other than you go once a month and you call that a workout. I know. But, how about travel? Now, Jennifer's all in. If I say go, she's on the computer finding a place. So all we have to do is say, okay, do I have enough money to suit that lifestyle? Mm-hmm. Can we pay for the travel and still keep our retirement goal in front of us, for 20 or 30 years? So yes, again. And then, you've got to look through all these things and say, I've got to actually move into a different stage of life. Is it all playing golf? We have relatives that play golf 3 or 4 times a week. And I'm like, God bless them. I can't do that. That would bore me to tears. I mean, I enjoy playing. I just can't do it 3 or 4 times a week. So, what do you do with the new you since you ain't going to work no more?
I very rarely find people who says, I've got so much time on my hands, I don't know what to do. Most people tell me and tell us that I can't imagine how I could have worked and still do what I do now because there's not enough time in the day. So one of the challenges that I have for you guys listening is put that bucket list together. What do you want to do? Have those things you want to accomplish. So at the end of the first year, second year, third year, you can actually look down and say, yeah, I've accomplished these things. You have to do that at work and it gives you that satisfaction. So if you have those goals and you're checking those off, then you can say, yeah, this is a successful retirement. I'm doing what I want to do. I'm accomplishing this. I'm doing that. It can be, I want to spend 3 days a week with the grandkids, but put that as your goal. So then hey, I'm accomplishing it and you feel good about it.
That's a great point, right? Keep those options open, right? I think about a friend of mine often who moved to Florida. They used to go down on vacation to it. They seemed to like it, but then they moved to it, and it didn't wind up being as dreamy as they thought it was going to be, right? So they wound up kind of hating it, and then moving back or moving someplace else was a big challenge, and so on and so forth. So, whatever your retirement plans is, just think that life happens, and you may change your mind. You may change how you feel about something.
We had a couple that said, we want to move to Costa Rica, and they actually lived in Costa Rica. Wasn't 24/7, but it was probably half the year. They moved there and they enjoyed it for a season of their life. Mm-hmm. And then their health, started changing a little bit, and they decided, okay, we're going to sell this place in Costa Rica and move in with the children, and basically created an ensuite or a suite downstairs for them. So, like you said, change is inevitable in life, and you need to be prepared, and you need to have the financial resources and knowledge. Can you do these various things at different stages of your life and have that confidence to do them? And it all comes with planning. If you haven't done a plan, then it's just a hope. It's a dream, and you don't know if it's going to sink or swim, so to speak.
Let's keep our sense of perspective, guys. Like, this is only like 100-year-old thing if you think about it. It's not like it's been around forever.
It hasn't been around forever, and modern science has allowed us to live longer and longer in retirement. I'm honestly kind of surprised that Social Security starts as early as 62 and 70, and people are living longer. They might be pushing that out a little bit.
I was going to say, that's coming, I'm sure, but yeah.
I'm sure that's on their mind.
But 20 to 30 years of retirement, of you not working for someone else and pulling that paycheck from someone else, and you've got to generate that income for those 20 to 30 years. It's kind of a challenge and a terrifying experience for a lot of people if they haven't done their homework.
Well, so think about this. Back in the day, people just worked until they couldn't work anymore. That's your perspective. And now we think, okay, I'm 62 or I'm 65.
Or had a pension, too, or had a pension to fall on.
That's right. And now they don't. I mean, for the vast majority of people, they think, I'm at a certain age for retirement. So here's a cliche. Retirement is not an age. It's a dollar value. You've got to have the money back to give you the retirement income, again, like Jennifer said, for 20 or 30 years. I mean, think about this. I just did one. They want to retire at 62. They want $150,000 a year, net after taxes, inflated at 3%, yada, yada, yada. And what do I have to do? I have to make this pile of money that these people have done a good job accumulating. I've got to make that last for probably 25 years at a minimum. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, no Social Security for 8 years. Okay. So how do I get the cash flow out of that pile of money? I can't just put it in, artificial intelligence stocks and hope it always goes up. And I can just pull a little bit of NVIDIA out every year. I've got to be able to build a plan that's sustainable for a long period of time. So perspective. When you look at people that have died early, as an example, we just lost a client 2 weeks ago. We got a call from the hospital. He's not doing well. Can you come? There's a few things for the pension we had to work through and get done for him. We went to the hospital and did that. Jennifer came back and she said, see if you can get Fidelity to do that for you. But at the end of the day...
Yeah, let me paraphrase. I didn't say that. I said it's such a blessing to have a local family-owned firm that will do that for a client, and you have that experience versus working with a box that, someone in a remote area trying to do those things for you. You just don't have that level of service. So anyway.
But people are passing away, and our age group, when you look at reaching retirement age, whatever that ends up being for you, some people don't make it even to that point. For what we had to do for that person, it was making sure that the pension was on before they passed away. Mm-hmm. Pretty important thing, so there's a whole lot of things to think about. If you're going to have these expectations, what you need to do is make sure that you've lined everything up. That's why we fuss about doing a plan all the time. We want to make sure that you've looked at your numbers in a realistic way, that you understand what the dynamics of taking money out of a pool of money for a long time is going to do to that pile of money, so that you've got a realistic expectation of what's going to happen. That way you don't have to worry so much, and as far as things that you're going to do, think about it. A lot of folks that I work with are business owners, or they're like professionals, and they're saying, I'm going to retire and I'm used to having this level of intent. When you think about what's going to happen there, a professional might get bored with waking up and watching TV in the morning and hitting a few golf balls. Not for a few weeks, but after a few months, perhaps. What do you do with that time? Do you have a skill set that you could teach? Do you want to volunteer in an area that you could actually help somebody else to learn how to do something? Do you want to just travel? You've got to come up with that plan so that your perspective and your understanding of what's going to happen for you is pretty close to right. Don't wait too long is another thing that I'll tell you.
Yeah, I was going to say that not only will that financial plan let you know what you have going forward in your retirement, but it'll also free you up to actually kind of live a little bit of life in maybe the 5 years before you retire. The couple that, Craig, you were talking about, and this happens several times, not just with them. They had the things on their bucket list that they were putting off and were going to do when he retired and that kind of thing. But if that plan is put in place earlier and they know their numbers earlier, then they can actually start doing some of those bucket list items before you retire and actually enjoy some of this life getting ready to retire, and then into retirement continuing that fun.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that plan done, you kind of keep putting off, I'll do when, later. And sometimes later doesn't happen.
Thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. If you have any questions about what we've discussed, remember, you can get a complimentary financial review with the team at Maestro Wealth Advisors by calling 336-448-1086. Or go online to howmoneyworksradio.com for other great resources and ways to reach the team. You can also check the show notes of today's episode for our contact information as well. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite app so you never miss an episode. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and all the most popular apps. For Craig and Jennifer Moser, I'm Mark Killian. We'll talk to you next time on the How Money Works podcast.
Craig Moser is a financial advisor and certified financial planner. Securities offered through Avantax Investment Services, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Avantax Advisory Services. Insurance services offered through Avantax Affiliated Insurance Agency.